I'm standing on the dual carriageway that runs down to Forestside, and this bridge carries you over that dual carriageway. Further along, the dual carriageway will take you right down to Shaw's Bridge. I'm standing at the entrance, the main entrance, the Beaver Drive entrance to Belvoir Estate. And Belvoir Estate is arguably one of the biggest estates that has ever been built in Northern Ireland. And that actually might go to even the UK. Not too sure about that, but certainly in the 1960s, whenever Beaver was first built, over a decade of years, it was the biggest estate then in Western Europe, as far as I know. And not only was Belvoir Estate big, but it had arguably the best housing, public housing of anywhere in the UK. The houses in here were well constructed, and they were large, and they had good sized gardens, and they had such an outlook looking over to Black Mountain and Devas, and also closer looking over Beaver Forest. And whenever I arrived down here from Banbridge all those years ago, 1975, 6, none of these trees were here at all. The estate is so well managed. And indeed, in 1995, best kept large housing area. In 1996, best kept large housing area again. And it still maintains that record. I'm going to take a wee ride down. This used to be my old stomping ground. I would have known Belvoir Estate like the back of my hand. In fact, I taught any youngster of secondary school age, I probably taught them for over a period of about 30 years because I was teaching in Newtownbreda High School, which was, in my opinion, one of the best secondary schools ever in Belfast. And you're driving along the dual carriageway and you wouldn't even know, because it's masked by trees up along the carriageway here, you wouldn't even know the number of houses that are down in here. Wouldn't realise it. And this is where Belvoir Park housing estate got its name from. In the in the 12th century, John de Courcy landed up in Ulster and he built a moat, or a motte, just in behind those trees. But later on, the Hill family in the 1740s built a massive mansion here, a family mansion, and it stood the test of time, but unfortunately it fell into grave repair, and by 1950 it was a ruin. It actually occupied the car park here, and in 1961 the army decided it was too much of a health and safety risk and they blew it up, and this is what the car park stands on. The remnant of this massive house can be seen in the stables, which still remain as the RSPB central office for Belfast and forestry workers. So that's what's in there. the stables of Beaver Park. And Beaver, B-E-L-V-O-I-R, if you know your French, it comes from good view, or it could also have been a copy of the name Beaver, which is the big English estate house. About halfway down the drive now, and this is Beaver Activity Centre, and the whole place has changed remarkably. Then in behind that is the home of Beaver Players, run for many years. I don't know if he still runs it, by Richard Mills, a great man of the theatre. And then behind that, over there, is Beaver Christian Fellowship. And over across the road here, and the road has now been ramped, and I used to ride down this road on this drive on my motorcycle, my 750, and try and keep up with the guys on the 200 yams and the 400 yams. You wouldn't do that now because it's all ramped. But over across the road here is Beaver Primary, and my old mate from Stranmillis days, Billy Tate, and he sadly is dead a number of years back. And I remember Billy well. Billy Tate was the headmaster for many years in Beaver Primary, and good guy. Sadly no more. But his memory lives on. And I've just passed the bend in the road that lead off to Grace Park and Beaver Crescent. And there's the flats in the background up by Drummond Square. I remember all of these houses. I remember these pensioners' bungalows going up, actually. And I've travelled along there, and I've just come to the end of Beaver Drive, which links up to Old Milltown Road. And then the road skirts the Shaw's Bridge to knock dual carriageway there. You can see the cars coming through. Well, it's not a dual carriageway, but it had been further back. But that one down to the right there is down to Shaw's Bridge, and back that way is Ardna Valley Scout Centre. But this is the Old Milltown Road, and we're heading towards Milltown Baptist Church. And this is Drummond Square, and there's the multi-stories over here. And panning round is the shops in the square, with the Spar still operating, and Beaver Hub over here, and Sure Start down here. And this would be, technically this would be the centre of Beaver. Back to the top end of Beaver. This is Beaver Church of Ireland, and this is Castledillon Road, and the Methodist Church is just there where the cross is. Castledillon Road. This is where the Coaters lived. This is where my wife Tanya lived, and we got married in Beaver Church of Ireland, and I think Tanya lived in one of those houses just up on the right. But it's all changed. And in 1992, just where across the road there, where that building, the blue building is, and the Tesco is today, there was the Police Forensic Laboratories, and the IRA decided that they didn't want to have them there anymore, doing their investigations. So they planted a £3,000 no warning bomb, which went off and destroyed most of the frontage of the building, and the shock waves came over all of these houses that were here. Now, these pensioners' bungalows weren't here, but all of these houses right along the Castledillon Road here were destroyed. Their roofs were taken off, their walls were wrecked, and we were there the next morning trying to help people, pull people out of the debris of their houses. In fact, we did pull one old lady who was sleeping downstairs at the time, and it was absolutely devastating. About 60% of the houses in Beaver were damaged in some way, windows out, cracked walls. Beaver Church had to virtually be rebuilt. The Presbyterian Church further on down the road here, it had to be, it was demolished and rebuilt because of structural damage. So about 60% of the houses were just wrecked. The Presbyterian Church used to be down in there somewhere. It's there somewhere, but I can't see it. Anyway, it was only due, I believe, to the good services of Newtownbreda High School teachers, Beaver Primary School teachers, and the offices of the churches that kept a lid on this, because the residents of Beaver, you know, many of them were loyalists, and they were outraged that the IRA had destroyed their community, destroyed their homes and all their furniture and everything else, and windows, and with no regard to anybody, no respect. They, you know, they just didn't care. And the churches and the schools and others kept a lid on this and you know, spoke out against revenge and retribution. And Beaver Estate, out of all the loyalist or Protestant estates, and I put that in inverted commas, there's very, very little violence or trouble in Beaver Estate. Very, very little. You can see the views there. So there's people like Billy Tate, there's people like Tom Keatley, Reverend Hannah, people like that who kept a lid on the tensions that were about at that particular time. I still have very, very fond memories of my time teaching in Newtownbreda High School and teaching the youngsters of Belvoir Estate. Because generally speaking, the people here were dead on, and you could work with them, and they were down to earth.